What's going on, guys? We got this 2024 50th anniversary Yz250. About to do some preventative maintenance. Just some stuff you should do anytime you buy a brand new bike, or not even necessarily even buy a brand new bike. You buy a used bike, just getting a bike in general that you don't know what's been done to it or hasn't had anything done to it. Show you a few things you should be doing. 4 bolts, 10mm socket. .32mm socket on this bad boy. We got 4 pinch bolts on top, 10mm socket also. We got 4 on the bottom, 2 and 2. See if we can get this bad boy to shimmy off. Woo! Nothing like a new bike. Once you get that steering stem nut off, that should just slide right off. This bad boy is gonna take a flat head and pretty straightforward. Whoop. There she goes. Nut and the seal come off first. Let's get this wheel situated. Stop the wheel. See what I'm saying? I mean, there's grease, but there's literally like nothing. As you can see, everything will just, you probably can't focus. Everything will just slide right out, and look, no grease on that at all. So just take some grease, grease the bearings up real good. Take a little dab of grease and roll it all in. Slap a little extra in here, won't hurt none. You can drop it right back in there where it came from. Getting grease all over my new bike. Seal. Should set into place. Nut. Ka-ching. And that's how you grease your steering stem bearings. Now when reassembling, everybody's got their own personal preference. Obviously putting it back together is pretty straightforward. Goes back together to exactly how you took it apart. Slide right on there, easy. So with a bike like this, for me, I'm a really small guy, so this thing throws me around a lot. The stiffer, well, the tighter you make this nut, the stiffer your steering will be. For me, I like to make it to where I have to almost force. See how it just falls by itself when I just let it go to one side? Some people like it loose like that. I personally stiffen this up to where I have to make it turn, and it makes the steering a little more stable, especially when you're riding in rough stuff and soft stuff. It helps a lot. So back to what I was saying about the steering stem nut. I've got it about where I like it personally. See, I have to make it move. I've got to push the bar, but if it gets to a certain point, you give it a decent tug or push, it'll go by itself. But I like to have to personally, I don't want it to turn by itself just because it hit something or something. I want it to. Doing stuff like this, always tighten to the right torque. You want your stuff to work properly and you want it to last. Ooh. 21 foot-pounds on these bad boys. Bam. Next, we're just gonna grease up the front axle. This nut, 22mm socket, I already broke it loose. Then the pinch bolts, axle will slide right out, wheel come right off. Pretty straightforward. Now that we've got it all put back in and greased up, huge, very important thing, you're gonna want to make sure that everything is aligned properly. 77 foot-pounds on this bad boy. 15 foot-pounds on these bad boys. To the rear end. Take your back tire off first. Just pop this axle nut off. 27mm socket, I believe. I already broke it loose. So it comes off. Get your chain block off. Give it a little press. It should just come right out. We got the rear tire off. Need to get knuckle, the linkage arm. Boom, boom. There's another one on the other side. This one. Boom. And to get the knuckle out, you have to take this little cover off. I believe there's one on the other side also. Take the nuts off. Everything should come out. 17, 19, 19 up here. Once you get your knuckle and your linkage arm off, here's for the front part. Let's see how well this dealership grease this stuff. I don't even know if it's necessarily the dealership that does this. This is probably the factory. Just gonna pull this bushing, or yeah, I think it would be called a bushing. I don't know. Let's see, let me get some. Kind of hard to see, but there's a little bit of grease. Not nearly as much as I would like. Now, when you're doing this, be very careful, because all of those little pins are only held in there by the grease, pretty much. They will fall out. if you're not careful. So when you're putting it all back together, make sure that they're all in there and you haven't dropped any. So do this in a clean area where you can see everything that's going on. Take a little grease, get it in there. Now if you do it nice and gentle and you get that grease up in there first like that, you shouldn't have to worry about the pins falling out. You get it nice and more grease the better. Grease ain't gonna never hurt nothing. You can clean it all up after if you got excess. And just like that. No pins, just grease. Take your brushing smoothly. Pow. The linkage arm is greased. Like I said earlier, grease ain't never hurt nothing. Just take your excess. I'll clean that off a little bit better in a minute. Now for the knuckle. Take the little collar off and take the bushing out. There's another one on this side. These ones usually tend to fall out more if they're not properly greased, but there's a little something in there. It's not too bad. Not as bad as I was expecting. I've pulled some out that are literally like nothing. There's something in there though, but we can get it right. Same thing with the linkage arm. Just be smooth and gentle. Careful you don't knock out any of those pins. Other side. I will say this definitely isn't as bad as I was thinking it was going to be. I've seen them pretty dry. At least there's enough in there to hold the pins in. Bam! All greased up. Put that bad boy back in there. Don't hurt to have some grease in there. You got a bolt that goes through there anyways. Bam. Now on to the next one. A little something. Enough to keep them in at least again. Some grease. It's a big cloud. Okay, they're nice and gentle. Don't knock out any pins. Now, if I wouldn't have done this, there's no telling how long that little bit of bullshit ass grease would have lasted. This thing could have seized up on me in 20 hours, and I would have been really disappointed. 100% have them. Bam. Rear end, except for the axle, is greased. One last thing, re-greasing the rear end. On the shock, there is a bottom bearing. This little seal comes off. It looks like that side. Then the little bushing will come out. Just throw some grease in there, put it back together exactly how we did the other ones.